Okay, day 2 of the cleanup, strip down, get ready for paint day. As you can see, I covered up the bike and the bench just to kind of encase some of the crap that I'm going to get out here. I've got plugs poked in all the plugs I had, plugged up all the holes I could find. The rest I have stuffed rags in, and we'll just get on with brushing, paint stripper. Probably not paint stripper, but brushing with solvents and lacquer, and eventually alcohol. Spray it down with alcohol and probably some brake cleaner to get off all the excess junk, and then we can get down to the painting part. So let's get on with it. A cleaning trick I learned a long time ago is acid brushes. Of course, we use them for a lot of the stuff we work on here. Everybody uses them a lot. Handy little brushes, can get into lots of small places, but they get fuzzed up pretty quick. But if you take an acid brush and cut off about half the bristles, it makes a mess on the floor. Sweep that up. But now it's much stiffer and they last a lot longer. I like to start at the top and work down, so everything that flows down flows off. I like to use lacquer thinners because it cuts through all the junk, greases, oils, loose paint. It'll get it all moving. Start there, get off all the heavy bulk. And there's all the little valleys and places that it's going to build up. I have to wipe those out. Now I'll shut up and just get cleaning and speed this whole thing up so you can just, I won't make you watch the whole thing, that's painful. And here you get the idea of what I'm talking about. Kind of a split, you know, on the right side of the engine, it's nice and clean. That's what we need to get it down to, get it all clean like that everywhere. And that's just the junk cleaned off. Then we have to make sure that it's degreased completely, and then we can start thinking about painting after scuffing a little bit, of course. This side, that's the dirty side. That's what it did look like. And this is what it will look like. So, we're just going to keep at it here. Several more hours of playing with it, and then we'll start making it look pretty. But there's no sense just watching me do this for hours on end. This has been about 2.5, 3 hours to get this one little piece, front and rear, around the side, around the rear, kind of half the engine, cleaned up. Okay, the next little task on our cleanup prior to paint, this water pump cover, the bolt that was holding this water pump cover on was very rusty, very corroded, and I don't know if you can focus on that, very rusty, very corroded, and I wanted to remove it and clean it up before I painted this area. So anyways, I went to take it out. This is what it is supposed to look like. Nice, normal, regular little bolt. And when I went to take it out, of course, what I found out that in this area, right in here, the seal on the water pump cover, which is just a big, as you can see, it's a big O-ring that sits in here, it was failing right here. So the fluid was able to get around the bolt, and it corroded the bolt to the point where as soon as I tried to undo it, the head broke off the bolt. Now we have the bolt stuck in the case, so we've got to remove that bolt. My plan to remove that bolt is to take this 1/4-20 bolt that I had, just cut the threads off of it. We'll take that, weld it right onto there, onto the head of that bolt. It'll be a little crooked or whatever, won't matter. Weld it on there, soak it really good with penetrating fluid, get it to loosen up to the point where we can extract the bolt. If that doesn't work, then I'll drill it out, an easy out or whatever. Drill it out, retap, whatever we need to do, but we've got to get this out before we can carry on with the whole rest of the event. So, stand by. Look at that. So there we go. Not pretty at all. Doesn't matter. Weld the new bolt on, got the old one out. The process of welding the bolt to the new bolt to the old stud, of course, is that it's a lot of heat goes into the bolt, a lot of heat in the area, put on the penetrating oil, and sure enough, it breaks it loose and out she comes. So that's a save. We put a new bolt in there, new seal on there. Once we paint it, it's all good. Okay, what I've decided to do now is I had this little old Lazy Susan bearing. They're pretty crude, but big bearing sitting in the other side of my shop. So I'm going to just use this and make myself a little Lazy Susan to set the engine on. So when I paint, I can just go around and around and around. So pretty simple little fix, or build rather. Just grabbed a couple of scraps of wood I had sitting in the shop. Just have to find the holes that are going to be appropriate to use to keep this thing on here. Here we go. Right there, I'll use those. Grab a few old screws, screw this thing down, and be rocking. There we go. Set the engine on here. Now I can turn the engine any direction I want to finish the cleanup and the paint. We're not going to paint the very bottom of the engine. It's kind of useless, but once we get it in the bike, we could actually touch it up if we needed to, but that's going to work. Okay, that's how it works. Pretty easy. Now I can get to all sides of the engine, up high enough to work on. But I've also found out that by tipping the engine, I can see underneath that there's I could put 4 lag bolts into my rotisserie here, that the heads would sit into these holes, raising the bottom of the engine up a little bit so I can nicely paint around the edges. But I also see that really, if I set this up, I can clean the bottom of this engine up a little bit. It's really, really grungy under here. I don't like it. So I'm going to actually set it up a little bit, do a little more cleaning underneath. I'll do a rough paint job underneath, set it on the lag bolts so it's raised, and then I can paint the whole engine. I'll feel a lot happier about that. So that's the next step. Stand by. Okay, so I've come up with a pattern. These 4 big divots here are 5 1/4 wide, 7 3/4 from here to here, 5 1/4 from here to here. So I'll put in 4 long screws that will set this whole case up higher than the bottom. So when I spray around here, I can get in around the edges. First, I'll spray all of this. And it won't be a great paint job on the bottom, but it'll be protectant again. I've gone along and washed it all. You've seen the video there of washing it with lacquer thinners, getting it good and clean. I'll do some more blowing off with air and cleaning up before I paint it. But I'll rattle can this all from the bottom and in here, just so that we get the bottom side of the engine done. Set it on the 4 pins so it's up a little higher. Then I can dress it from here this way up the engine. Okay, now it's cleaned up enough. I can do a rough spray on this bottom section in this area, a little bit in here, bit in here. Then I'll set it on the pins, and then it's sitting up high enough. When I turn it around over the edge of the bench stuff, I can spray up under here and get all the areas. So I'll do a rough spray, prime, black, set it on the pins, turn it, then I can start really working on it. Like I say, this and all of this I can get off the edge of the bench once she's on the rotisserie. Get this bottom done. My low gloss black. VHT paint. Let that set up for a minute, spin it around, get the other side. Okay, there we go. Bottom of the engine's got prime, paint. Not the best paint job. Nice, it was cleaned, it was painted. Now the top, I'll set it on the pins, get it aligned, continue with some taping and blocking off, and then we'll do a good prime coat, 2 thin color coats, and 1 thicker coat at the end. And that should be it. Okay, here we go. We're kind of ready to get some painting done now. We've got it all masked off and plugged all the holes that we're worried about. So let's get some paint on this thing. We'll make it look all black. And then that's pretty much the end of this episode. Once it's all painted, I'll give you a quick little view of it. And then on the next one, we'll strip all the junk off, clean it up, put our new hardware on, and it'll look like a cool engine. So let's get on it. Let's shoot some paint. Okay, we'll let that sit for 20 minutes, half an hour. Let it set up a little bit. You don't want to let it set up too hard. Your top coat wants to bite into that prime a little bit. If you let it sit for too long, you have to scuff everything, and imagine trying to scuff all this shape. Wouldn't come out very well. So you want to put it kind of, it's called wet on wet. It's not really wet, but it's not cured yet. So we'll leave it now and let it dry up a bit, and then we'll paint it black. This cover, the clutch cover, is going to come off. It's going to be sandblasted along with a lot of other bracketry and bits and pieces than the oil cover. And then I'm going to paint them separately off the bike once I throw them in the bead blaster on the other side and clean them all up. So a little overspray, no big deal. So there's no sense taping that all off. Anyway, let's wait a bit. We'll spray the black. Okay, guys, that's it. Let's get out of the shop here. It's so thick of paint in here I can hardly breathe. It's all black. It looks pretty nice. Once it all dries, it's going to look kind of a nice flat black. So I'll leave it there this week because this is a pretty long one. Next episode, we'll pick it up with taking all the stuff off and cleaning it up and get onto the other covers and other things I need to sandblast or bead blast and paint up. So if you like, subscribe, hang around. Thanks very much.